What's up, internet? My name is Nikki and today I will be doing my January and February wrap up. So let's see what books I ended up finishing the last 2 months. So the first book of 2017 I ended up reading was actually a comic series, and that is Outcast by Robert Kirkman and Paul Agazeta. I'm not sure I'm saying that right, but yeah, let's just move on. So I read volume 1 last year, but I ended up recently purchasing volume 2 and 3, and I didn't really remember what happened in the first one, so I reread it. So I reread volume 1, A Darkness Surrounds Him, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I really did like it. I like the storyline, I like how it's drawn and everything of it, and it's a horror thriller. It follows the life of Kyle Barnes, who basically comes back to his hometown after a recent incident with his wife and kid, and he kind of just wants to hide. He just wants to hide away because he thinks he is cursed, and then we find out that technically he's not really cursed, he's just been haunted by supernatural forces. So I really like this, and that's why I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then moving on, I ended up finishing volume 2 of Outcast, which is A Vast and Unending Ruined. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars because it's a little less action packed in this volume. It's more of a story building, and then also you get to see more of the world around Kyle Barnes and of the demons, I guess I could say, what they're trying to do, and we get a really cool bad guy. So then moving on, I finished volume 3 of Outcast, which is This Little Light. We actually get to see Kyle Barnes and see what he really is, sort of. I'm not quite sure, it doesn't really tell us, but we get to see a little more of Kyle Barnes and also more of what the demonic forces are up to. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Once again, it's more story based than it was action in the first one, where it was trying to, well, grab your attention. So the next book that I finished in the month of January was also a series, and that is the Sweep series by Cate Tiernan. I finished this bad boy volume 1, which is a bind-up of 3 books, which is Book of Shadows, The Coven, and Blood Witch. This storyline revolves around Morgan Rowlands, who finds out that she is not an ordinary girl but comes from a long line of blood witches, and it's just her discovering her powers and finding out, I guess, the good and bad in the world, and finding her so-called true love, and maybe not her so true love, but yeah, just her getting introduced to her heritage and her seeing, does she really want this lifestyle, and what would she do to keep it? So I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I think Book of Shadows I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The Coven I also gave 4 out of 5 stars. And then Blood Witch I gave a 5 out of 5 stars because it kind of gets a little actiony in the 3rd book, just because we meet a new character and the witch police and all this stuff, and it's just, yeah. I was really into like really actiony packed stuff the beginning of this year. So the last book that I finished in the month of January was a conclusion, and that was The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. So the thing about this book is that I literally took my time with this. I read a chapter once a day because I did not want whatsoever for the Raven Boys to end. I did not want to read this whatsoever. I took my sweet time with this until like I think the last week, and I just said screw it, almost like 5 chapters done with it, so let's do this. So I binge read, I cried, and it made me so sad. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I do admit there's one thing that I didn't like, is because we get a new character, and I don't know how I feel about that character just yet, because I feel like they're trying to replace another character with this person, and I'm like, don't do that, don't do that. The original 5 was good enough, you don't have to add another one. But yeah, so moving on to February, I ended up reading 3 books, which I don't actually have physically, and that is All for the Game series by Nora Sakavic. It starts off with the Foxhole Court. So the Foxhole Court follows the life of Neil Johnston, who's trying to run away from his past. we find out that his father is kind of like some sort of mob boss and he wants Neil dead. And so Neil ends up going on the run with his mother, and something ends up happening where Neil is by himself and he kind of feels a little lost. He has no idea what to do anymore, so he ends up doing the one thing he loves doing, and that is playing a sport called Xe, which is the combination of hockey and lacrosse, and it's just a really big contact sport. That's all I really got out of it. And he ends up getting recruited to play in a college level, and the issue with this is that people will know who he is. They will see pictures of him. He will be on news channels, stuff like this, playing for this college. And what that means is his father might likely find him, and he decides to play this as long as he can until someone catches wind of who he is and where he is. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because it does get your attention. There's a lot of violence I was not expecting, and it overall was a good storyline. It kind of read like a fan fiction, so Moving on to book 2, The Raven King. This book unfolds of the consequences of him playing Xe for this university. I don't want to say too much because spoilers, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well because this book was a little more abusive. I don't know how to say it. It was just, there was so much in this one that you kind of felt for the characters, and you're like, this explains so much between the different characters in the book and of how Neil works, and it just breaks your heart. Book 2 broke my heart. Usually when I give books 5 out of 5 stars, it usually means I liked it, I like the characters, and I'll probably reread this book multiple times. This book in general, I don't think I can read just because of what the characters go through. It breaks your heart. Moving on to book 3 in the series, which is The King's Men. This is the conclusion of everything that Neil Johnston has been through, and he comes face to face with it, and it pulls at the heartstrings. It pulls at the heartstrings. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 just because I would probably reread this book. Actually, I think I did reread it twice in the month of February, and just overall for this trilogy I loved it. Due to the characters, you fall in love with them. They were kind of psychotic, and there's also a really interesting love interest which I highly enjoyed. So yeah, so that is it for my January and February wrap up. If you read any of the books, tell me what you thought of them. If not, give it a try. They're somewhat addictive series. And so yeah, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. If not, that's cool. I try to either upload Monday, Wednesdays, or Fridays. So yeah, I catch you later. Whoopee!